What's going on, guys? Tony here. So if you guys haven't been paying really attention to my channel, you would have not seen that I've been starting to upload more and more content from the game Dead by Daylight, and I've streamed it quite a bit as well. And I noticed a lot of people actually are asking me questions about the game, certain nuances, what happens in it, what certain things do, and a lot of people are actually interested in playing the game, which I think is really cool because I really enjoy the game. So I figured I would start making a series, a Dead by Daylight basics series, to kind of go over all the basics in the games, to kind of get any of you new players or people wanting to get the game up to speed and kind of figure out what you will need to know in order to play the game optimally and to know why things happen in certain situations. So that's what we're going to do for this. So this is the first episode that we're going to be doing, and it's going to be on the survivors. So obviously the objective for the survivors is to go in, get all the gens done, get out, and not get killed by the killer. Sounds simple enough. We'll get more in depth to it. So when you're first into a game, though, the first things that we need to talk about are movement. So there's 3 different types of movement that you can do in the game. You can crouch, walk, or sprint. Sprinting is the fastest, but causes you to leave behind scratch marks that the killer can actually track to find your location. Now, walking is slower, leaves you more exposed because you're standing upright, but you'll leave no scratch marks. And then crouching is the most immersed option, but it's also the slowest. Some perks can improve this, however, but it is only recommended to use if you're trying to evade a killer or hide behind some sort of rock and kind of fit in with your environment. If you're trying to travel around the map using crouching, you're really not going to get very far. Now, there's one last thing that you should take into account when moving in this game, and that is crows. So crows kind of appear all over the map, and they can be used in a variety of things. If you run past the crow too closely, you can actually startle the crow, and if they're taking a certain perk, they might get a notification that these crows have actually gone off and they can try to find where you're at. That doesn't happen too frequently, but the more frequent thing that you're going to see are stillness crows. And what that basically means is, I know it can be kind of scary when there's a killer trying to murder you in this game, but you don't want to stay still, because what happens is once you are kind of AFK, quote unquote, crows will start to appear above your head, and at a certain point they'll actually give an auditory noise indicator for the killer. So if you've sat still for 60 seconds, you get a single crow over your head. If you sat still for 75 seconds, you get 2 crows over your head. And at this point, there's still no noise indicators, but if you've been still for 90 seconds, 3 crows will appear over your head and you'll start to get a noise indicator. Now, this is to prevent people from being like AFK in a locker the entire game and having their teammates do the other thing. So you just need to really take that into account, and you'll also need to basically do actions for a certain amount of time to get rid of your crows once you've actually started moving. Now, the next thing that's also on the map that you'll be able to see are windows. There's going to be a lot of different windows throughout the map, no matter which map you play on. These are 2 different types of ways that you can actually get over these windows, all right? They're called vaults. There's a slow vault and a fast vault. So basically, a slow vault you could do if you simply wanted to go over a window. You just walk up to the window and go over it. Now, there's a fast vault, which requires you to actually be sprinting head on 2.5 meters before the window. This is the fastest type of vault. You'll get pretty good distance, and you'll be able to pretty much maintain your speed after the vault is over. Now, you can be sprinting, and if you hit your window at an angle, or you haven't done that full 2.5 meters of sprinting head onto it, you'll still do a slow vault, which is pretty upsetting, especially if you're in a chase. And this is really, really important to note because, 1, the slow vault, you could get hit from it, or the slow vault, you can actually get pulled off of the window, which is never an important thing. So you need to know that when you're fast vaulting, that it's the best way to get away from a killer, but that's all when you want to use it. You don't want to use it at any other point, because when you're fast vaulting, it also makes a little auditory cue for the killer to know which window has been fast vaulted over. So always use slow vaults except when in a chase. Now, getting into the actual stuff of the game. So first off, you need to complete 5 generators. There's 4 survivors on the map who need to complete 5 gens. There's 7 total that spawn on the map, and you can do repairs to them. You can use things like a toolbox to speed up the process, or when you work with teammates, that also makes the process of repairing the generator faster. When a gen is complete, there'll be lights above it that are fully lit, and if you're having any trouble looking for them, just look for those lights. Even if they're off, you'll know that that's been a gen that hasn't been touched. You can also try to listen to see if a gen has been started but not yet complete. So while on the gens, you will receive skill checks. They come after a little auditory cue, and they have a window in which you can hit a successful check. There's also a very small filled-in section for you to hit a great skill check. This will give you a little extra boost in progression, and if you fail the skill check, however, if you miss the timing or hit it before, the gen will blow up and knock back your progression a little bit, and also give a auditory cue to the killer, so that might give away your position because they're probably going to be headed on their way over. And also, when you're in the game, there's other things that you can interact with. There's things like chests, which you can open up to contain a random item, which is always nice. You might get something of a very rare rarity, but they are also quite loud and pretty easy for the killer to actually find you when you're on them, because most of them are in the open. Then there is also hooks that are all around the map, and you can actually sabotage hooks, which means basically disassembling them, breaking them. And once you've actually sabotaged a hook, the killer cannot put a survivor on that hook, and they'll have to go to a different one. However, after 3 minutes, the hook will repair itself, so you need to be a little bit more cognizant with that. A lot of stuff that people use is to leave their hook sabotaged at 99%, and when a killer goes to try to put someone on the hook, you sabotage it right in front of them so you can get the most out of your time. Now, you can do all the hooks on the map except the basement hooks that you can sabotage. Now, the other final thing that you can interact with on the map are totems. So totems are these skull-like shrines on the ground that you can cleanse for points. 5 spawn on the map in total, and there are 2 different kinds. So there's first a dull totem, which is something that basically just gives you points, but they are pretty good to cleanse because the killer can have a perk called No One Escapes Death, and that will take on a dull totem at the end of the game. Meaning if all of the dull totems are not cleansed, the hex totem, which I'm going to explain in a second, will take that place. So anytime you see a totem, go ahead and cleanse it, because 1, you don't want that to happen because it's a really annoying perk, and 2, it's just free points. Now, like I said, the next type of totem is a hex totem. This is basically a totem that has a candle lit up underneath it. You'll notice dull totems don't have anything lit, but a hex totem has all the candles lit up underneath, and you can tell it's much brighter on the map. So these totems are tied to hex perks, and they take longer to cleanse but provide more points. And once they are cleansed, an auditory cue comes up, and the killer is informed that the hex has actually been cleansed. But it will make your job a lot easier for the survivors, because they're often perks that are used to slow the game down and make it easier for the killer to kind of locate survivors and get them on hooks. Now, let's say you find yourself in a chase with the killer. There are a lot of things that you can actually do on the map to try to run away and escape. You can try to use the environment to juke the killer into thinking you maybe went a different direction and stay crouched and hidden somewhere. You can also use the windows, as I mentioned earlier, to try to create some distance. Lockers are another option that you can use to hide from a killer and not be seen in the open. However, you need to be careful with the lockers, because if you fast vault into one, the killer will get another notification, an auditory cue, and if they actually find you in the locker, they automatically pull you out and put you on their shoulders and transport you to a hook, even though you haven't been hit once on it. So you need to be careful with lockers. There are also pallets scattered around the map that survivors can drop down. If the killer is close enough to the pallet, it will actually stun the killer if you drop it down, and then they'll have to go into a recovery animation so you can have a little bit more distance from that. However, the killer can break pallets, making your decision with them pretty important on the map, because you don't want to drop down every single pallet you see, because there's going to be none left on the map by the end of the game. The best tip that I can kind of give when running from a killer and knowing when to pull down a pallet is to look behind you while running in a chase, because then you'll be able to know the distance that the killer is away from you, to see if you really do need to pull down that pallet. Because if your teammates see you just pulling out every single pallet, they're probably not going to be too happy with you. So most of the time when you're in a chase, you can get hit twice, and if you manage to escape with only getting hitting once, you can heal yourself with self-care or a med kit. Otherwise, you'll need to find a teammate to heal you. So getting hit twice puts you into the dying state. You can recover while in this state, but not fully, so a teammate would have to run over and heal you to pick you back up. If this doesn't happen, the killer can pick you up and transport you to a hook. During this time, you can wiggle. If the wiggle bar is full, the killer will drop you and be stunned, allowing you to try and escape. Your teammates can also do some things to try to help you out. They can body block to make the time of transport take longer. Also, sometimes when the killer picks you up, a flashlight can be shined into their eyes, making them drop you. And the last thing that they can actually do is, if they are walking on the map and they go across the pallet and you drop the pallet on the killer while they're carrying a survivor, it actually causes them to drop them, so that you can actually help out your teammates even after they've been picked up. So if you are put on a hook, you can wait for your team to try and pull you off, or you can try to attempt to unhook yourself 3 times at a 4% chance each time. After you attempted 3 times or have been hooked for the second time, you'll be put into second state, or the struggling state, and you basically have to, as I just said, struggle, and you basically just have to spam a button over and over in order to do this. You'll slowly bleed out over the timer, and if you kind of mess up the timing on here or just kind of forget to hit whatever button your struggle is, you'll actually die. Now, also, the other way to die is if you get hooked for the 3rd time in the match, you will just instantly die and be sacrificed to the entity. If you find that a teammate has been hooked, you can actually run over and unhook them yourselves. You'll get more points for a safe hook rescue, which means after you have unhooked that person, they have been around and alive on the map for at least 10 seconds without getting hit by the killer, which basically allows it so that you're not farming your teammates. Because if you just instantly pull them off right when the killer is right next to them and they get hit and downed again, that's not very fair to them. So you should be getting a point deduction as well. So make sure when you are unhooking your teammates that you're doing it at a actual correct time, because it both benefits you and your chances of probably escaping. Now, once you've completed all of your gens, you can open one of 2 exit gates. Gates take 20 seconds to open, and they'll save your progress in case you have to leave them. The other way that you can escape is through the hatch. The hatch spawns after 1 more generator has been completed than there are survivors on the map, which basically means if you start with 4 survivors, 5 gens have to be completed in order for the hatch to spawn. Let's say there's only 1 survivor left. That means 2 generators would have had to been completed for the hatch to spawn. Unless you have a key, the last survivor can escape through the hatch. And it spawns randomly throughout the map, but there's a loud auditory hum to kind of let you know when you are near it. So you have to kind of be careful too when you're jumping in, because it's not for free, because a killer can actually pull you out of the hatch if you're not in the dying state, meaning if you're healthy or have taken 1 hit and try to jump into the hatch, the killer can pull you out. But if you are at the hatch in the dying state, they actually cannot pull you out of the hatch. You'll get it for free. It's definitely more riskier, but you will actually gain more points if you escape through the hatch at the end. At the end of the game, your score is divided in 4 categories that you can receive 4 different scores on in a point scale of 0 to 4. So what you can get is none, which is 0, meaning you didn't do anything basically in that category. You can get bronze, which is 1, silver, which is 2, gold, that's 3, and then iridescent, which is 4. So the categories a survivor is scored on are Lightbringer, which is gained from repairing generators, cleansing hex totems, and opening exit gates. Unbroken, which is for escaping the trial, is the 2nd category. And basically the only way to get iridescent on that is to escape without getting downed. Benevolent is the 3rd category, and it's done from safely unhooking survivors, healing, making a killer drop a survivor, taking a hit when a survivor is getting carried. And then the last category is Evader, which is for staying hidden from the killer and winning chases. Staying hidden, meaning that while the terror radius is present, the killer doesn't actually find you. And winning chases, meaning that after you've been in a chase, you're able to successfully get away, because if they down you, you'll actually not get as many points. So basically, in order to rank up in this game, you need to earn things that are called pips, or points in progress. In order to gain a pip, you need to get between 9 to 13 points from all of your categories combined. That meaning, let's say you get all 4 gold, that means you've gotten 12 points and you meet that criteria. So if you're not able to get all those points, you might lose a pip, and if you get a lot of points, maybe you get all 4 iridescents, you might actually gain 2 pips from this. I hope that you guys all enjoyed this video. I'm pretty sure I covered most of the very, very basic things a survivor needs to kind of understand when going into a game, especially at a low rank for a new player. I will go more in depth into the series, looking at things like perks and strategies for both the survivors and killers. I believe my next video that will come out will be the basics for the killers themselves, but I just wanted to get this out there because I know a lot of people have actually been really interested in this game, watching me and asking questions about it and wanting to play it for themselves. So I figured I would make this content in order to kind of explain what I have known from playing this game. So if you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate that. As always, my name is Tony, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.